Question was one on the entry load, exit load, am I right? And then the capital gain. These are the three queries. Entry load is nil. Exit load, if you withdraw before 1 year, you want 1%? 1% before 1 year. Is it clear? No entry load, if you withdraw before 1 year, 1% exit load. Now, I mentioned about a scheme of a systematic withdrawal plan where you invest a lump sum amount and then withdraw for a regular, let's say a pension or a regular income kind of a thing. So let's say if the inflation rate is 6%, if you withdraw at the rate of 6%, okay, they have given a provision that up to 10% or 12% withdrawal, even if it is before 1 year, there is no exit load. So that is a facility which they have given to enable you to have a regular income from a corpus investment one time and then withdraw. Is it clear? Coming to capital gain. Capital gain, long term, it's 15%. Short term, it will be at your rate, whatever marginal rate is there. Number one. Number two, capital gain on equity mutual fund or equity up to first 1 lakh is tax free. After that, it is 10%. So let's say if you have invested 10 lakhs and you get a return of 10%, then how much is the capital gain? And you have sold it. I've got a capital gain of 1 lakh, tax free. If you invested 10 lakhs and the capital gain is 1,20,000, first 1 lakh free, on 20,000, 10%. I hope I'm clear. The balance is almost the same. The returns are almost the same. The only difference between the two is Tata Ethical Fund has got a Sharia compliant certificate on a regular basis. Taurus does not have a certificate, but it does not mean that it's not Sharia compliant, because what they do is they follow the S&P 500 Sharia list and invest into that. They don't invest into non-compliant stocks. Again, reason why they are not taking certificate is because of you and me. When they launched the fund with great enthusiasm, the collection that they have done is a very small amount. The amount they have paid to the Sharia scholars for certification was high. So said, I don't want to pay to take the extra cost. So if you and I, our community participates in that, it is our responsibility. Again, I'm saying that. And I want to clarify this and say that it is not that they have not taken the certificate because they are not Sharia compliant, but because economics does not work for them. So the responsibility is on you and me.
Who are the people issuing these Sharia compliant certificates, and what kind of authenticity you have for them?
Who is giving the Sharia certificate, you're asking? Yeah, there's a company called Taqwa Advisory and Shariah Investments Solution. This is a company, I don't know how many years old it is, but it must be at least 20 years old or 15 years old. Alhamdulillah, I'm a part of the shareholder there. This is one of the oldest and the first company which has done the Sharia screening of stocks in India, number one. Number two, there's got a Sharia board, and the last Sharia board which I know of is the chairman is Mr. Khalid Saifullah Rahmani sir. Two is Mr. Barakatullah, who is again from India, a Sharia scholar based in UK. He's a MPhil. He's a Sharia scholar for British Islamic banks. Third, I don't know whether he's still in the board, was Mr. Iqbal Ladvi from Canada.
Got a number of queries regarding Sharia products. One most important was, is there any tax saving plan in Sharia? And second, what about insurance? Is it Sharia compliant or not? You want to have some highlight on that.
First, on tax savings fund. There is no tax savings fund in India which is Sharia compliant. Again, excuse me, but I keep repeating it. The reason for that is that we do not participate. We have not demanded for it. First saving that we go is for tax saving. There's no objection, there's no restriction as per law or from SEBI to launch a Sharia compliant tax saving fund. When you speak to the fund managers, they say demand ही नहीं है. Very sadly, I will comment again. This person who is sitting beside me, the Tata Mutual Fund CEO, when he's gone to Dubai and tried to present a Sharia compliant fund and said, हमारे पास भी Sharia compliant fund है. Very sad. बाजू हटाओ और क्या है बताओ. If this is the kind of approach that we have, how can we get a Sharia compliant tax savings fund? Number one, period. I'll keep there. Second, earlier I used to invest into non-compliant tax savings fund, thinking that it is because of tax savings only, and we have got a majburi. When we discussed with the Sharia scholars, they have said, knowing that a product is non-compliant, you are not supposed to invest. Again, I'm going back to that word, ulul albab. We try to work on that with the Sharia scholars and the financial experts, and our learning is that tax savings under ATC, if we invest 1,50,000, you get a tax benefit of 48,600?
One third, who's in the high
48,600. That tax savings is only for 1 year, but your investment is locked for 3 years. So a better way is to pay the taxes of 1,50,000 minus 48,600. The balance amount, if you invest into an ethical fund for 3 years, you will be better off because the return that you are getting from the non-compliant investment, and if you remove the purging, you are at a loss. I hope I made a point. 1,50,000, you invest in a non-compliant fund. After 3 years, let's say it becomes 3 lakhs. You remove the interest or the purging part of it. The net investment that you have made will be less than the taxable that the Tata Ethical Fund has given, which is a Sharia compliant fund, after paying 48,600. This working has been done again along with Tasi's bias. Number one. I hope I've clarified it. What is the second question?
Any insurance product?
I think I've made a statement in the early stage itself. There are 4 regulators. I mentioned about RBI, I mentioned about IRDA. There is no insurance is not permitted. Why is it not permitted? Because risk is not taken. There's an equivalent product in Sharia called takaful. In India, we don't have any takaful product. Number one. Number two, insurance. Most of the people also ask about medical insurance because that is a big expense. Is that permitted? We have discussed with the Sharia scholars. Sharia scholars say that it is not permitted except for people who cannot afford it. They are very guarded in that statement. What it means is that people who are below the poverty line, they have been permitted for medical insurance. Coming back to investment and financial planning. Our experience has been in the market, all hospitals, all reinsurance companies do not make bills above a certain amount. The maximum for that may be 25 lakhs, 50 lakhs. Generally, I'm talking. There could be 1 or 2 exceptions. So if you are paying medical insurance premium for 25, for a youngster, let's say you're paying for 25 years, when do you actually use medical insurance? You use it at the time of retirement when you become old. That is when the need is. So if that 25,000 or 30,000 that you're paying for 25 years, if you had invested as a separate bucket or a separate corpus for the purpose of medical expenses, you would have been better off. Alhamdulillah, if you have got help, if you are not able to use it, that bucket funds can be used for any other goal of yours. Now, so what's the advice? Youngsters, like they have for retirement, like they have for education, like they have for marriage goal, they should have one fund for medical expenses. People at my stage, what should I do? The Sharia aspect of it is that if you are paying 50,000 or 25,000 towards expenses, this is my view. This is not scholars' view. This is my view is that you pay as sadaqah nafila and then pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives you help. Because ultimately, the provider of help is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the best way of giving it and then paying it. This is my view.
Because if you can cover purging, what do you mean by purging?
Purging Purging, if you have not understood, see, we talked about that investment where we said that Sharia compliance allows you to have debt or a company up to 33% or 25%. Now, what is that? That debt is something where the company may have taken a loan for expansion of its business. So there is a level, that's a tolerance level. This the Sharia scholars have allowed. But that doesn't mean that it is halal. So at the end of the year, when you do the calculations, there's a system by which they find out what is the interest or the revenue income of this company for non-permissible activities or interest-based activities that are there. That portion, TASIS calculates and tells you that this is the amount which is the revenue from the non-permissible activity. That is purchase which you need to take out. A simple example I'll give it to you like this. All of us is practice, but we don't think about it. We keep money in the bank deposit because in savings account because we've got a majburi. 3.5% interest to get. Most of us take it out and give it because it's interest. But similarly, when you're making an investment into Sharia compliant company with debt, the revenues which are there, there's a method of calculation now that is called purging that you need to remove. So Sharia compliant investment doesn't mean that there's no purging. There is a purging. Without purging, it's not Sharia compliant. That's what I was trying to say. How about clear?
Yes. So, and I'm sure Tata Ethics are on a regular basis. What we probably as a suggestion at the end of the year, if to all the investors of Tata Ethical Fund, if you send out a ratio, I mean, as an email that this is the ratio for the particular year, so that they can make the it's basically removing the impure income, even if you have after having invested into Tata Ethical Fund, right, sir?
TASIS itself, they have made it very simple. What TASIS does is that because they have given a certification and doing the audit, the purging amount on Tata Ethical Fund is very low. So, and there's a fee for purging. Okay. So TASIS has come out and said that if you invest up to a certain level, you don't have to pay a fee. It's just about 500 rupees or 1% or 0.25%, some percentage is there. You just take it out and give it, that purging will be taken care of. So it's a very small amount because it's a Sharia compliant fund. If you had invested into some other fund, the purging amount would have been high. That is the reason what I was giving a comparison between ELSS, which is non-Sharia, and better to pay off the tax and invest in Tata Ethical Fund or Sharia compliant fund. Then the purging amount will be small because the investment you have made for a longer period, 3 years. Now on purging, there's one more clarification let me give you. See, there are different methods of purging. I don't want to get into the details now because it's late, but let me tell you there are 2 different ways. Some scholars say that if you pay, if you do the purging as a percentage on the dividend which is declared by the company, it's fine. Some scholars say no, you need to do a purging on the complete amount on capital gains. Both are right in their own way. We don't need to dispute this. We don't need to debate it because, as I said earlier, they are scholars. There are different ways of doing it. Each one has its own opinion. We need to respect that. And AUFI, which is the standard board for this, they have accepted it.
Karan, that was very insightful, interesting information that you have shared with us. Thank you very much. I have a question for Mr. Flash. Going forward, because you said in your portfolio allocation, technology is one of the highest allocations. So are there any opportunity going forward to include blockchain technology and digital assets in your portfolio? Is there any consideration for that? Thank you.
So we might consider adding some companies, but they have to be Sharia compliant. We can't go beyond what Sharia is allowed us to invest. So we have to check if Sharia is allowing us, and we find them a good opportunity. Our fund manager find it as a good opportunity. Like we follow a simple strategy which is called GARP, growth at reasonable price. So whenever we find a particular stock or particular equity fund which is Sharia compliant, which we are getting at a very good price, then only we'll invest in that. It's the strategy which our analysts are working on, and in case we find it and Sharia is allowing us to do, we might do that. Digital as a sector is doing well, and our fund manager expectation for the next 3 to 4 years is very bright for digital sector. So in case we find a way or we find it suitable, we might go for it. I hope I answer your question.
Yeah.
Auto purchase.
but we can look for it because Tasis have been trying to get automated a few things. Right now, it's not automated, but inshallah, I hope it will come.
What has been the average number? I mean, last 5 years or 10 years, percentage? I mean, you said 0.25.
I don't exactly remember, but I can share it with you. You can share it. In fact, I will give the table where the tariff for purchasing has been fixed by Tasi, where they say that if it is Tata Ethical Fund, it is up to, let's say, 2 lakh. I don't remember the figures. Up to 2 lakhs, you need to pay 500. Or if it is above that and you don't want to pay the fee for processing the purchasing kind of a thing, you remove about 1% or something, it is done. If you have many stocks, let's say 40 stocks, 50 stocks, if you're a fund manager, if you've got many funds, then you need to pay for the service and get the purchasing done by them. For that, they charge a fee. So they have made it very friendly for people to get it. Despite that, we don't do it. So please think about it seriously. If I can give this one message for those who are thinking that they are investing to Sharia compliant fund and getting off, no, we're not doing it. So
We should be doing this annually.
yes, we can do it. We can do it annually.
Mr. Shabbir, one question. Excuse me. I just want you to elaborate more about having life insurance as per the Sharia compliance. You told in short that when Mr. Anis was asking you, he said not permissible. So I just want to have a little more elaboration on having the life insurance as per the Sharia Council. As per the Sharia Council,
Okay. Insurance, what is the problem with the current insurance? Let's look into that. What is an insurance company? What does it do? It collects the premium for an eventual event, if it happens, to compensate you. And then, let me put it the other way. Let's go to 1400 years before. Insurance was there 1400 years before also. What was it called? Baitul Mal. The concept of Baitul Mal is that you collect money from different people, have a corpus. If there is an event, you compensate for that event, for that society, for that family, whatever it is. The balance amount is carried forward for the next. What happens in an insurance company? They collect 100 rupees premium, claims are 20 rupees, 80 rupees goes to the as a profit for the insurance company. 1. 2. If they have surplus funds, where do they keep? They keep in interest rate. There are many other kinds. The technical ones I don't want to get into, but in simple terms, trying for understanding, these are the 2 points that I would like. Okay, one more point here. Many of us are into ULIP, Unit Linked Mutual Plan. What happens in the ULIP? In the ULIP, they collect 100 rupees premium. Out of that, 6 rupees is towards the risk purchase. There's a management fee, and the balance amount is invested like a mutual fund. Like a mutual fund. So what happens here? What is the difference? The premium which you are giving is for the insurance. So the premium, that is not allowed, number 1. Number 2, the management fee is high. Number 3, if you want to invest, get into the mutual fund. What is insurance? Insurance is a risk purchase. Why mix the two? If you want, why mix the two? Buying the protection and the investment. If you need investment, go to the investment, get into the mutual fund, whatever it is. And if you still want to buy the insurance, that is for the risk protection, separate it. Don't mix the two. For liquidity, okay. Not gold per se is Sharia compliant, but gold fund can also be non-compliant. How can it be non-compliant? What do they do? What do gold funds do? They invest in gold backed by physical gold in the custody, okay, and then there's this element of cash. So whenever a fund manager is holding some cash, let's say 5%, 10%, that is what we need to look into. Second is that proportion. Again, as I said, that percentage which is there, as per Sharia compliance, because it's investing to the money market and the interest that they're getting, whether it's high or low, that is one. Second, I can't recollect the year, but in a particular year, in the financial year, government has allowed to reduce the import of gold. To reduce the import of gold, what the government said is that the gold which is there in the custody, banks can lend it so that the import gets reduced down. So if the fund manager is lending that gold, then there's an interest portion. So it becomes non-compliant. So this in gold funds also there is a compliant and non-compliant. So again you need to follow the sheet. On silver ETF. Sorry? It may be unethical for me to see because I say here in the public because that's a subscribed information and giving in the public, I think is unethical. Because I respect the Sharia scholars, the Basis or any other company which is trying to survive and then come out. And if we take the shortcuts, it will never. One, it is unethical. Two, you can never come out. Again, I'll give you an example of Taurus. Why is it not taking certification? Because they're not participating in it. Business, they have to flourish. We need to support them. As per one.
I understand from the market that it is more than the other funds. Is it true or not?
Sir, it's expense ratio of
Yeah.
the ethical fund more than other funds. Any other fund, like there are certain funds in the market which has expense ratio. Expense ratio is something which will be decided by the fund house, sir. Okay, and expense ratio will come down as the AUM of a fund goes up. Suppose it is at 100 crores now, the expense ratio of that fund will be higher because the company has to run that fund. The company has to make sure he get the fund manager's fee out of it and all those things. So as the fund size goes up, the expense ratios will keep on coming down. So this is how the expense ratio works with a particular fund. If you ask me why the expense ratio of this fund is higher than a fund, some other fund, because the AUM of some other fund may be higher. Some other fund may have a 10,000 crores of AUM. We only have 2,000 crores of AUM. That is the only thing.
Economies of scale, sir. Economies of scale. And again, coming back to the same point, the more we support, the more they grow, and then the expense ratio comes down. But having said that, expense ratio is something which is decided also guided by the regulator. So it's not that something which Tata Mutual Fund can fix it by himself. And mutual funds have got one of the lowest expense ratios. So probably, I mean, just a ballpark number, it can be anywhere between 80 paisa to 1.5% compared to some of the products which Shabbir mentioned. So it's a highly cost efficient product.
Regarding this cryptocurrency, is it, I don't know what to say, is it regulated or what?
I got it. I wanted to avoid it. Okay. By making one mention in the beginning itself, I thought that would be message would be clear. Let me put it this way. It is not a currency. It is not an asset. It is not a commodity. There is no lender of last resort. If you invest in that, the tax rate is 30%. There is no adjustment of capital gains when you do the pairing. That is, if you sell one currency and buy the another one, there is no set off. That means the loss from this cannot be set off against the profit of the other. And why are we investing into crypto? We have got this regulated funds which are Sharia compliant, and we're not doing it. And we're talking about this one. And added to that crypto, today's news is somebody has provided services to overseas and accepted the payment in cryptocurrency. Now they're being asked to say that cryptocurrency GST will also be applied. Today, I think they've taken a decision. The Ministry of Finance was supposed to take a decision. So, What is it for that? There's only one. Let me quote Ali Radiallahu Ta'ala anhu. He said, the best amongst you is the one who is not a prisoner of greed. Crypto, I call it greed. There's no other reason. The other day, I went into a conversation with 5 Muslim youngsters, again millennials that I'm talking of, and then I did not disclose my identity. I kept talking to them on a conversation, and they were all graduates who had completed. And then slowly I got into financial literacy and asked them, have you started? Have you earned anything? They have not earned anything, but they said all 5 of them have invested in crypto. I said, whose money have you invested? The result, conclusion is that they've taken the parents' money and invested in crypto, saying, आपको नहीं मालूम है, आजकल का जमाना क्रिप्टो का है.
Are they wrong by telling that it is parents' money they're putting in crypto? So they are doing wrong thing, you mean?
No, I'm not saying wrong. What I'm trying to say is,
Many people they are going for crypto these days.
no, there are two things. There are two things here. There are two things here. One, without knowledge, investment. Without knowledge, investment. Number one thing. Second is that you need to understand crypto. What all the list I have given negatives, even after that, if you want to invest, what they say is that it is something like the money that you want to spend either in a casino or in a horse race. And the fund managers who are not Sharia compliant, from the non-believers, they have been saying that the allocation that you need to do for crypto is something which you think that you would put money in the pocket, and when you come back home, it will not be there. This is
But
the
there are Sharia compliance who also operating the crypto.
I
In Hyderabad. Registered Sharia compliance, they are dealing with the crypto.
you should ask them if they have Sharia compliance is missold by many. Number one, I will give you an instance here itself. There are a lot of fund managers, there are a lot of AMCs, there are a lot of PMS people who say that it's a Sharia compliant fund they're talking. I'm talking with my own colleagues when I go for conferences and other things. When I open my mouth, I open with Sharia, nothing else in the finance industry. So everybody knows me as Sharia. So when I ask that we're doing, सब हमारे पास भी है. क्या है आपके पास? मेरे पास भी Sharia compliant PMS है. What is that Sharia compliant? हम financial bank में नहीं जाते. After all this, if you think that they're still Sharia compliant, we ourselves don't know what is Sharia compliance. So mis-selling is the biggest mis-selling of Sharia compliance, Sharia products in India. If there is a scholar who has given a Sharia compliance certificate, I respect him. It's istihad, that is individual one. I will not open my mouth. I will just say that this is Sharia compliance given by a Muallim, Alim. In the beginning itself, I have given a reference. I will keep out. I will respect it.
Hello, I am Mohammad Amjad Ali, a journalist from Hyderabad. My question to Mr. Shabbir, those who are investing in cryptocurrency, they are of the opinion that Islamic scholars always wake up late to the reality. Sooner or later, they will accept crypto as halal. How do you respond to that?
If they wake up late, you keep sleeping till then. Short answer.
In the interest of time, we can take questions offline over the dinner. So, as we move towards the end of the session, I would like to thank